Yes.
do you mean? Humany?
Maybe peopling,
Yeah,
peopling,
Humany?
humaning. Got it.
Hello. Do you want to play a game?
What's your favorite scary movie?
Be afraid. Be very
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Here's Johnny.
The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
Welcome to Talking Horror with Jamie and Nikisha.
Hello, I'm Jamie.
And I'm Nikisha, and this is Talking Horror with Jamie,
And Nikisha.
where we share our love for all things scary and talk horror through the lens of human behavior. Well, welcome, everyone. Welcome. It's so great. I always admire the heavy metal singers who can actually do that with their throat and still come out with not a scathed larynx.
Right?
Because wow, how can you
How?
do that?
Ow. The people want to know.
The people want to know, but that's not what we're talking about today. Today, we're talking about the 2024 horror thriller film Humane.
Ooh.
Yes.
Do you mean humany?
Maybe peopling,
Yeah.
peopling,
Humany?
humaning. Got it. Which is something that I would absolutely say. So this film was directed by a one Caitlin Cronenberg. Name might sound familiar because she is what? The daughter of David Cronenberg. Yes,
What?
David.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
And
Because he
her-
has a
and
brother
her
too,
bro.
though,
Mhm.
right?
And her brother
It's
is
her
Brandon.
brother.
Oh, here we go. All the good.
The balloons are here to celebrate you.
Absolutely. We love a balloon moment. But yes, Caitlin Cronenberg, this is her feature directorial debut with this
Mhm.
movie. And
Woohoo.
it is written by a one Michael Sparaga, and it stars Jay Baruchel, Emily Hampshire, Sebastian Chacon, Enrico Colantoni, and Alana Bale. And so, heavy spoilers for Humane. And Jamie, please give us all the trigger warnings for this movie.
This movie centers around climate change, euthanasia, social issues that are very relevant to today,
Yeek.
and lots of stabbing, cutting, yoinking,
Shooting.
bopping, shooting.
Stabbing.
Yeah, just the big old stab.
Mhm.
If there was a movie called Stab that wasn't from the movie Scream, this would be it. Stab. Yes.
Yeah, this is the real stab.
This is the real Stab. Which, by the way,
Yeah.
I just found out that Scream, the OG. Well, first off, all of the Screams are streaming on Max right now. So if you
Ooh.
all of
guys
them
want to
are?
have a binge moment, all of them, the OG,
Cool.
all the way.
Cool.
And so that's super exciting. But also, Scream is playing at a rooftop in New York on Saturday. So I think I'm going to go try to mosey my way
Oh.
up that
Do
rooftop
it.
Nice.
Do it. That's so fun.
to watch
I'd-
the OG Scream.
That's cool. I've
Yeah,
been to a
the
lot
group-
of those type of events. They're very cool.
Group Scream
Yeah.
watch, I feel like, are the best watches. Like public viewings.
Absolutely.
Big public viewings.
And I've never
Is it
watched
one-
it in a theater setting. So I'm
Yeah, sure.
super, I'm excited.
Is it the
Mhm.
one where you it's like a silent disco where everybody has headphones and are watching?
Yeah, it is. Uh-huh.
It-
Because it's in
is it
Times
on-
Square.
It's on the roof. It's on Times Square, or is it's on the rooftop of the hotel?
There's one. Okay, so there's the Yotel one, but then
Uh-huh.
there's another one.
Cool.
It's the Rooftop Cinema Club. And it's
Oh,
in Midtown,
I've
but I
heard
forgot
of
what
them.
building it's in. But it's not Yotel. That's a different one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we're gonna go and experience Scream at night with the people and see how that goes. So I'm very
Oh,
excited.
that's gonna be
about that.
awesome.
Woo woo woo.
Yeah. But yes, before we get into everything that is humany, our humany producer, Brian, do you have some words for us?
Yeah, hi everybody. We're on YouTube, so find us there as well. Hi YouTube. We're, of
Hello.
course, we're on social media at Talk Horror Pod on TikTok, on Twitter, on Instagram. So find us on all of those platforms there. And I'm excited to talk about this one.
Yeah, I am too. This is going to be a doozy of a conversation. But first,
Yeah.
have you guys watched anything new before we get into this?
Not really. We've been catching up on Fallout.
Oh, is
Um,
that
it's on
not
Prime,
Marvel,
based on the
but
video game.
okay.
Uh,
How is
It's
really
also
it?
been
good.
my comfort video game that I've been obsessively playing when we're not watching it, which is I've been playing it a
Nice.
lot. A lot.
Yeah.
Brian can attest to how long have I been playing it now?
I mean, a lot.
Yeah.
She might play it after we record.
Ah.
No, I probably should do work, but
Interesting.
I like what you're
Or-
thinking. I like your ideas. It's just
I mean,
like
there's nothing wrong
a
with
very
little...
interesting world.
Yeah.
There's just some games that like create really fascinating worlds and you want to really like dive yourself into it. And
Yeah.
I feel like the show does a really good job of like capturing that same like world and kind of thrusting you into it and in a way
Yeah.
where you don't necessarily need to have played the games to like get into it.
I love that. Is it how is it set up? Like third person, whatever, like moving around with your avatar? Like how is it?
Like in the game.
Yeah, in the game.
You could do like first person or third person. I'm playing
Okay.
Fallout 4.
Okay.
And it takes place in like the Boston area. So it's also very interesting to
Ooh.
see like real elements of Boston portrayed in this
Mhm.
game and in like a post-apocalyptic version.
Yes. Are you streaming any of it on Twitch? Am I saying that correctly? Is that what you do on
You are saying it all correctly. No, this one's just for me, Nikisha.
Okay.
There are some games that I just like to play for myself, and this is one of them because it's just open world. There, I don't
Mhm.
have to follow anything, and I'm just doing my own thing. And maybe this time I'll actually beat the game because I still haven't. After like this is maybe like the third or fourth time I've restarted this game. There's just so much. There's so much
Yes.
to do, and like side quest upon main quest upon like other quest upon whatever. You don't have to do any of the quests. You could just like build out your post-apocalyptic base. You could do whatever you want, and
Yes.
it's a great time.
But on that note, follow Jamie on Twitch. Emo support Jamie. It's in the description
Yes.
of this episode.
I also was going to say, speaking of post-apocalyptic, what is this light show that's happening behind us, Jamie?
Oh, those are just my fun little lights.
The fun little... Can you do like a spooky, like a
like creepy lights? Yeah, you can
Yeah.
change the colors and stuff like that.
For all of you listening, I'm sorry this isn't great content, but find us on YouTube. Find us on YouTube to see the lights.
Yeah,
I literally
if
was going to
you're-
say, that's why you have to watch us on the YouTube so you can see
Exactly.
what's
see.
happening.
the
Yeah.
Halloween.
A little orangey Halloween moment.
Yeah,
We love it. Keep
Mhm.
us in the mood.
Nikisha,
I-
have you watched anything?
Yes, and I already texted you guys about this, but I have to share with our listeners.
Yeah.
Please.
Whew. So if you watched or listened to or watched our last episode, we covered The Strangers in preparation for Stranger Chapter 1, which we will cover. So with that, I didn't realize that there was a Strangers Part 2, Stranger Danger. And so I decided to watch The Strangers
Strangers
Part
2, Stranger Danger.
So
Yes.
good.
That's so good.
Yay. And when I tell you guys, like, that had an even lower rating on Rotten Tomatoes than The Strangers. And for great reasons, because talk about people not peopling and making absolutely asinine, insane decisions.
Damn.
It was really bad, and I checked the score after I watched it,
Sure.
just to see if I was missing something, and I was not. people were very
And you were not.
disappointed.
Were there any good kills in it? Like, was there anything redeemable about the movie in general?
There was only one moment, and it was just a shot after a kill that they did not show. So it's kind of like turn the chair around and see there's a person there, and their jaw was, it was a lot of great makeup, but their jaw was like unhinged and stuff, and it was cool. But other than that, it was just not a great movie. And I was so excited to see some of the actors that were in it, because this is so random, but one of the main girls, the daughter, she was in a movie called Just Go With It with Adam Sandler, and she as a little child, and it was one of my favorite like comedy shows to watch, like in the early 2000s.
Sure.
So anyway, she's like a little bit older, being teen angst with her cigarette smoking and being like trying to be a badass, but it was just all did not work out for anyone in that movie. But I am curious about Strangers chapter 1, because spoiler alert, if I don't know if you guys do you want to watch The Strangers too? I won't say anything if you will watch it.
We probably will at some point, but like it's totally
you
okay.
can share
I'm not
whatever
concerned.
you need to share about this.
Well, all of the strangers get killed in the second movie. So I'm really curious to see, yes, they all meet their demise and they all die, and they have this really awful shot of the girl who I was talking about, the actress that I like, in like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, jumping into a back of a truck and then driving away, like shot for shot as they're ending, which really made me upset about that. It's like, you're just going to copy this, but whatever. So I'm curious about since this one is going to be obviously like a prequel to everything, but I'm curious if they're going to continue any kind of way in the chain, because all the strangers die in the second one. So we'll see what happens with that.
We will see.
Okay.
But if you're just bored and you need something to just have on the TV, put it on, maybe pay attention a little bit and let me know how you feel about it. But it was just not for me.
Yeah.
Not a good vibe. But we're here to talk about Humane, so let's get into it. We need a plot summary of this, and our producer Brian has 2 minutes on the clock to give us a plot summary of Humane.
What's the plot?
Oh, right. Okay.
Oh, yes, of course.
Oh,
Me.
right.
Yes.
All right. I'm ready.
You're ready? You're ready. All right.
Ready.
I have 2 minutes ready up for you. Ready, go.
Okay, this takes place in an alternate future, or right now, however, and basically global warming has gotten so bad and climate change has gotten so bad that every country has committed to lowering their population by 20%, essentially. So different organizations have been set up, and in the US, there is a group that is attempting to, get everybody to enlist essentially for euthanasia. And so it focuses on this one family, this kind of a very wealthy upscale family. You have the father, you have the stepmother, you have the brother who's an anthropologist and kind of is like a CNN speaker, if you will. You have another daughter who's like a crooked CEO of a company. You have a younger son who's adopted, who's had drug issues in the past, and then you also have the youngest daughter who's an actress. And so they're all invited to their father's house. The father tells them that he and their stepmother have decided to enlist, and they're all like, "Are you crazy? You can't do this." The mother runs away, and they're surprised that he's going to be euthanized that night with his whole family. The crew shows up. He wants to stop doing it, but essentially they say that if you stop doing it, you'll be jailed. You'll be, but more importantly, you'll be on basically like a duty head list. Like it will ruin your character or whatever. And he was kind of like a Walter Cronkite type of character, this like anchor for national news. Anyway, he ends up doing it, but they still need to collect another body. So all of the kids end up trying to kill the other kids to give them another body. In the end, they make a deal with the guy and the younger daughter is killed in the scuffle, and there's a lot more that goes along with it, but that's basically the end of the movie, and everyone lives happily ever after except for the people that died. Also, the drug addict's girlfriend comes to the house and she is killed, so that was another body that they get. So
Oy.
that's Humane.
And that's the plot.
Yes. Such an intense topic.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like Brian said, in a futuristic time, but also kind of like right now. So
Yeah, like this movie has a lot of exposition, and then it just turns into like a stabby movie, and then there's like an
Yes.
end. So like it's but yeah.
Good old stabby.
Good old stab. Well, let's get into our first segment of likes and gripes.
And now our likes and gripes.
So, Jamie, would you like to go first in your likes and gripes of this movie? This is obviously all of our first time seeing this because this just came out last month. So,
yes, it did. There were a lot of things I really enjoyed about this movie. I really liked the world building. Like I liked the concept. I liked this idea of like this, the world that kind of seems like that's where we're currently heading is, climate change is slowly leading towards like a larger scale ecological collapse, and there's like the ways that they're kind of presenting this information in the beginning, at least to describe the world. We're not getting like a crazy amount of exposition, I would
Right.
say. Or there's things like happening in terms of like everyone who's outside is holding these like weird umbrellas, or if they're in cars or around windows, there's clearly like something over the glass to protect people from, I'm assuming, like unhealthy UV rays and radiation and whatnot.
I also like the car notifications. It would say like
Mhm.
outside. It is like it's kind of like a
Oh,
built-in
yeah.
kind of Siri type thing. I thought that was
Yeah.
super cool.
I mean, remember like just a couple months ago where like the air quality was so bad that you couldn't go outside for
Yeah.
like days? Like again, like this movie has these very realistic elements that are disturbing and like scary if you kind of relate it back to real life. So I really liked all of that. I thought that was really clever and just like an interesting idea of like, this is an initiative that the government has come up with in order to like deal with overpopulation and just like the larger climate crisis. And what other things likely are to come from that, that they don't even necessarily need to get into. It's like enough of a setting that we get where it's like, cool, let's move into like the actual conflict of the movie.
Right.
I think also they did a good job at like when they did do that the shift. Peter Gallagher, who plays their father, the anchor, I think that he does a really good job at playing the I should have been there more kind of dad, like that there's clearly this divide within the family dynamic, and everybody kind of feels a little bit disconnected from one another for a variety of reasons, and like the patriarch of the family is a significant part to blame for that. And we don't necessarily need to get into all the nitty gritty of like the whys. It kind of like comes out naturally within the dinner party stuff.
Right.
I think I liked the idea of the like how the euthanasia program was being facilitated, like this team of people going to your house and like you sign this paperwork and then you like do this procedure, and they're supposed to like take care of all of this stuff for you. Like again, it's set in this world. I really like the way that it's presented. It definitely felt like kind of purgy to like The Purge to me.
Yes.
As like a parallel of like,
Yeah.
how has the government created this thing as a response to the problems that we're seeing in the country, and like the way they're referencing some of the unknowns about the program, or like, oh, like the government wouldn't lie to us, would they? And like
Ha,
just kind of
yes.
sprinkling in
Yeah.
pieces again that like feel very real, like things that like
Yes.
again things that are actually happening, real conversations that people are having. How the media is portraying the program, like featuring Jay Baruchel as
Mhm.
the anthropologist, but also just like other news things that are coming up. Even Peter Gallagher's character kind of like talking about being a reporter and having to report on certain things and like sharing this information knowing that it's incredibly fucked up. So like all of that stuff I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
want to something that you said earlier that it really does feel like a Purge spin-off or something like that. But also you had mentioned like how they come to your house to do the euthanasia. But the one thing that I really liked about that was that they were privatized and that they were former
Mhm.
corrections officers.
I was yeah.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I like
No,
that was
that was like a
brilliant.
perfect like I can speak on Bob.
Good old Bob.
Bob was great. I really liked Bob. I it was like that was the most that might have been even more devastatingly real, what you just said, just about how like they used to be corrections officers. Like a lot of prisons are private prisons.
Yeah.
And so like,
Mm.
like people are getting paid, the like corrections officers are getting paid quite well in private prisons.
Mhm.
So then to like shift into but when you think about it conceptually, you think that it is like, oh, it's a government thing. So like you're under an assumption that like, oh, maybe they're not being compensated super well, or like whatever the compensation, like all of these things. At least that's what I'm thinking about. This is
Mhm.
also my brain of like having previously worked for the government and also in nonprofits that are contracted through the government.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. And then but then for him to drop like, well, it's a private company, but like they're also like other we don't get compensated for children, so like we're not going to deal with that, and like
Mhm.
all of these other things. But I literally, it couldn't have been more perfect when he was like, oh yeah, like me and my whole team are like former corrections officers, and I was like, of course you are.
Of
Like
course you are.
that
It was
is
brilliant.
so true. Like that was an incredible moment that was like, yes, 100% bought
They would
into
be the
it. Like
ones doing this for sure.
yeah.
Yes.
So there were a lot of things like that where I was like, this is landing like really well. And I'm in it. And overall, like I thought Bob's character was really funny. Had a lot of like one-liners. I also was like, oh, I used to watch Just Shoot Me, the sitcom, as a kid. Like that's what I was thinking of. His character Elliot. If I'm
Oh.
dating the shit out of myself.
No, I love Just Shoot Me. He was also in
Well, you're older
Station
than me, so
11
yeah, he was. Um,
and Veronica Mars.
that one I did not
Oh, wow.
watch.
Okay.
Oh, he's also in Galaxy Quest.
Yeah,
Great
Galaxy
movie.
Quest.
Oh my
Mhm.
god, that movie's so good.
Oh,
Ugh.
wow. He's just an incredible
Never give
actor. I
up.
think he, like, just to speak on that as well, for me he was one of the standouts in
Mhm.
this,
Yeah,
because
definitely.
when he originally presents himself and he is just like kind of nervous, but and how he plays into like, yeah, I know exactly who you are and I'm a fan of yours,
Mhm.
and I don't know, just that juxtaposition of like how he was at the beginning to like, but this is my real intention, but like all of that still seems like it's a part of him. It doesn't feel like
Mhm.
he's trying to play into, these are the rich people, so I have to treat them this way, or
Yeah, yeah.
it's just like, it just seems like that's just his personality, and we're getting all the different colors of his personality in this movie, and it's great. He plays them beautifully.
But
Mhm.
also by making them a corrections officer and justifying it by they were looking for jobs essentially or new businesses because
Mhm.
most of the prisoners enlisted.
Yep.
So,
Sure.
I like it, and that plus the immigration stuff, like it really did feel like some sort of a Purge spin-off like type of
Mhm.
thing, because they're very similar vibes in terms of what the
Yeah.
government was doing to the different class systems.
Totally. And then
Mhm.
on top of that, you have Jay Baruchel, like in response to his father saying that him and his wife were enlisting, he basically was like, we don't need to worry about that
Exactly.
stuff. Like, this
Mhm.
does not apply to us. Like,
Mhm.
you know, or even if, then they were talking about how, like, part of the reason why he was doing that is because the government is pushing for, what's it called? Like why can't I think of the right word? It's not a mandate, but like,
A draft?
yes, a draft. They mentioned that like very briefly early on, where they were like, you know, the government might be looking for starting to draft like members from
Yes.
different families, and like, I couldn't live with myself if like any of you. And then they were like, you know, the likelihood of that happening is super low, and
Oh
like,
man,
you know,
the
at that
draft
point you
rules were
could,
so good.
yeah,
Ooh,
it just,
yes.
it was all really fascinating. And yeah, just like, but all of that again, like, still feeling super real, but also really highlighting like the socioeconomic and like class based, like, there's clearly a disconnect with like what's happening here. And again, we get a lot of that as the movie goes on. And that kind of is, I think, what one of my bigger gripes is this movie spends a lot of time being very heavy-handed about like, you know, the differences in like socioeconomic statuses, in it, like addressing racism, addressing you know, people who use substances, and like feeling like what society's feelings are about different groups of people and their identities and the things that
For
they
sure.
do. And I like, I don't think that the problem was that they addressed those things, because like I said, I think it was like the way it was sprinkled in the beginning was really fascinating. But as soon as the movie then shifted into Bob saying, all right, we need a body, you're all gonna fight to figure out who the body's gonna be, and we just get like a really, what felt like a very heavy-handed and drawn out conversations about it, where it
Mhm.
also felt really easy for all of them to collectively gang on the one
The
person
adopted.
of color adopted son.
Yes.
I was just kind of like, oh, that's shitty, and like that's not what I wanted. And I feel like
Mm.
part of what made it more challenging for me is that some of the characters were not as well fleshed out for me as I would have liked them to be, in order for it to be a both a fairer fight in terms of a conversation, although they do talk about how like things aren't fair. But like, I think that it was like, I guess in some ways it kind of felt like what's the detective movie with Daniel Craig and Ana de Armas?
The Knives Out.
Yeah, where there's like,
Oh.
it just feels like this very quick like turning against her. And so like, but I feel like they did a much better job as like, you're the outsider, and like there's all these things that like, I feel like in comparison to Knives Out, where it's like everybody ganging up on one particular person, I just didn't, I believed those characters more in Knives Out, because I think that movie did a better job at like, even though there's way more characters, you get a feel for who they all are and what they stand for, even when like betrayals are happening.
Yeah.
And this one I felt like was lacking, because I feel like the only two people that they really spent more time on giving us who they really were Jay Baruchel's character and the adopted brother's character. So then we have these two sisters that I feel like were really one note, and just didn't like, one of them is just like, I'm a mom, but I'm also like kind of a piece of shit. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, is there more?
And
Like, that was it. Yeah, that was literally
Yes.
it. And then you have the younger sister, where they try to give you some of that, but more of the work I think was on her brother, of like, you know, when I was adopted, I was so excited to like be a part of this family. And then like you came along and I was like your big brother and I was protecting you. Like, he still had to do more of the work to establish her character. And so like she just is
Sure.
kind of like, she's like, I'm an actress, but like I guess I'm not that good, and like I'm like,
And that's it.
that was
Yeah.
it. And then like, as soon as they mentioned dollars, like seeing the dollar signs in her eyes, where she was like, yeah, I guess I will turn on my brother, I was just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Why? Like, it just happened so
Yes.
quickly, and I didn't understand like how that was literally the only motivation, and it happened so fast, even though they had already done like a little bit of work to establish that they had the closest relationship, that like
Right,
she
right.
knew all this stuff, and she was like, oh well, you lied to me and we said there would never be lies between us again. Like, what do you talk like
I
this is
agree. I want
just,
to.
I didn't like it.
Yeah, but and to add to your point too, sorry to interrupt, but I
No.
agree 1,000% with you. Um, Mostly because too, and I didn't really even think about the one note of the characters, except for the mom character. Her, I was
Mhm.
like, this is the worst written of
Yeah.
the siblings. But to have that entire scene in the car with Ashley, who's the actress,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
Noah, who's the adopted, and for them to and for you to see that they have this strong bond for
Mhm.
in the first moment of trying to pick who's going to go, for her to betray him that quickly.
Yeah.
I agree. I was like, wait, then why did you set up this whole thing about
What was the
them being
point?
so like bonded with each other if at the first moment of this, like she,
Opportunity.
yeah, then she's
It
just
was,
gonna automatically turn on him. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
yeah.
and especially I thought that the piece of information that she uses to basically turn on him with, which is like
Mhm.
he got his inheritance because they paid off the woman that he killed.
Sure.
Essentially, I thought that
Yeah.
was a great piece of information, like in terms of cleverness for the screenplay and for the character motivation. But I
Mhm.
agree, it was just dispatched too easily.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because it just like I and I was okay with like, then they're all kind of going at it. I was a little bit annoyed that it also then took Noah, the brother, the younger brother character. It took him so long to like, not even that it took him so long. He very much like was, family above all else, and didn't want to fight back, didn't want to like hurt his family. Everything that he was doing was defensive, and like only until his girlfriend is killed does like he amp it up a little bit, but even then he still didn't kill anybody. He
Mm-hmm.
still was like, so I don't know. I kind of at that point I was like, my guy, you're like they are actively trying to kill you time and time again. Like this is not working out in your favor. Like,
Yeah.
please protect yourself. But at the same time, then I had the thought of like, what does it say about a movie that then like has one of the few like, non-white characters then fighting back in that way? So it's like this like very interesting like strategic kind of thing that like I have to imagine that they were thinking about this. Like you can't
Oh,
hack if these are
absolutely.
the decisions that you're
Yeah,
making
for
of the
sure.
characters
Yes,
and
this
the
was
actors that you're casting, and like you have to be thoughtful about it. But like it just like I don't know, there was a lot of things about it that just felt really tropey, and as we talk about a lot, like there are certain
Mhm.
tropes that I just find just like I'm over them.
Yes.
So like that, I think that really bothered me. I also was so annoyed that the girlfriend got killed because again, I'm just like, can we stop showing like black people getting shot in horror movies? I mean, in all content, please.
Yeah.
But
Because
like,
what
I
was the
like,
point?
Why?
But a lot of-
Why are you
Well,
doing this?
so
Please.
I think that this movie is like 2 years too late to make its points. Like it's heavy-handed. I'm not saying that this movie does it better than another one. I'm not even saying if it came out 2 years ago, we would have been like real, oh wow, they're saying something. But I'm just saying that like we've seen these points in so many movies in the past couple of years
Yeah.
that it just I almost feel like the timeline of when this came out doubles down on why we feel it's so heavy-handed, because like everything in this movie was done for a specific point. The black woman being shot when she was told to run away, like 100% was on purpose. Like him being the only person of color in that house who like was a family, wasn't all done on like it's all clearly done on purpose. It's just to me our reaction to it is one, it's not done in the most elegant way from a screenplay perspective, but also
Sure.
like this is stuff we've been seeing in movies done better over the last couple of years, whether it is heavy-handed or whether it's not heavy-handed. Because and so like that's how I felt about it. I felt like you're just retreading the only new interesting thing about this movie, and I liked this movie, was was the world building and the high level concept of it. That was the
Yeah.
only new thing. Everything else was just like retread of stuff we've
It's
seen.
it's just
Yeah.
themes that continue to come up, and like and they're it's important because like they are very connected to the themes that like we in real life are experiencing. But it's interesting to think about, like, does this movie feel really like late in terms of, like, when you started talking about that, part of me was like, is this, I think the development started in 2021, but I'm like, is this like coming out of like the Black Lives Matter movement? Like that's where I could see it being like slightly more impactful. I mean, probably still before that, but like it's just interesting to think about like what time frame would this have felt more impactful, less heavy-handed, versus like now where we are just like truly inundated in all of this. Does it then feel like yeah, of course, like I'm just saying of course over and over again, because
Yeah.
nothing that they're presenting, with the exception of the concept itself, is new or surprising information.
Yeah, I also will this has the blueprints, the fingerprints, whatever kind of prints you want to talk about, of somebody's first movie. And I mean that I recognize that she did not write it. So this may not totally like fill the
Be
gaps of the
her vision,
conversation of
or
we're
yeah.
saying. The movie has a clear voice, which I really
Yeah.
appreciate. However, whether it's a playwright or a screenwriter or a director, the first piece that usually young, creators make or write, whether it's on stage or on film, always tries to take the world and put every single theme and a kitchen sink into a movie. And as directors get um more gain more finesse with their craft, and really figure out who they are and what their voice is and what they want to say and what they want to zero in on, their work gets way more specific. And I think that and I'll wait for my likes and gripes to talk about Caitlin Cronenberg, but this excites, if this is how broad she's starting, I am very excited to see her narrow down her focus, because she's not like her father, who's like body horror and does like, I mean, his filmography is wild, from like that Freud Young movie to The Fly to like Crimes of the Future to Videodrome to A History of Violence. Like, what does this guy make? Like, I think he's super cool in his that. But then you have her brother who does Possessor and Infinity Pool, that's saying something little specific but makes your skin crawl at the same time. And I hope that her genre is black horror comedy, because this is what a good start for that, and world building too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see her get more specific, because this was just like, we're going to deal with immigration and climate change and the market and the hierarchy on socioeconomic policies and Black Lives Matter and the industrial, prison complex, and like it's trying to do everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's clever, like when the people are former corrections officers, and sometimes it's heavy-handed with almost all of the dialogue.
So yeah, and then like I think there were some interesting like suspenseful like fighting scenes, like thrilling chase kind of stuff. Again, like there were very 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 few actual deaths in this movie, so like I can't even really speak to that. And then their sister just kind of ends up like collapsing on the floor. And like that's the end of that, which like again, whatever. It got clever again at the end. One other thing that I'm kind of grappling with, and this normally isn't a real complaint that I have, because I like, as you just mentioned, like black horror comedies. Part of me is like, did they lean a little bit too heavily in the comedy aspect versus like the horror thriller aspect? Because there is a lot of conversation that's happening. There's again, like between just Bob himself, I feel like is coming in a lot from the comedic angle, but then, like Jay Baruchel saying something unhinged, or like other random droplets of things coming in. I'm just curious, because I'm still kind of, I think, digesting what's the line of like horror and comedy where one doesn't feel like it's overwhelming the other one. If either of you like
Mm.
had thoughts on that.
Yeah, I didn't personally feel like the comedy was kind of overpowering what was happening. I think just because of, like we've already said, of how the world was built, it all seemed to still kind of fit within that context. I just think that some of the characters just weren't that great fleshed out, like you said. I don't think it was a comedy issue. I think it was like just more of like a character issue.
That's fair.
Yeah. I think that's fair. Yeah. But I also think that they definitely did lean into the comedy of it in certain places, or they were directed to. But I definitely think it was a script potentially thing, and it could have been a different movie if you hired different actors, like that.
Sure.
Emily Hampshire from
Schitt's Creek.
Yeah, and she's done more than that, but in terms of what they're mostly known for, a lot of these people,
right? Which I didn't even realize she was in this movie, and it was very interesting because I have only seen her in Schitt's Creek, and it was very interesting to see her in this kind of dynamic, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think those were like my major issues. Again, like I liked this movie because I liked that the premise was something like very different that we have not seen. But then I kind of like felt a little bit bogged down by just like the whole middle of the movie, and then like it had like a quippy fun ending at the very, very end. But I agree though, like I'm also very curious to see what's next for Caitlin Cronenberg, and like this family makes a whole lot of bangers, and I will always look out. We just watched the trailer for a new David Cronenberg like today.
Yeah, there's like a little teaser.
I have no idea what it's about. It literally told me absolutely nothing about this movie,
which is great.
The Shrouds. Yeah, we watched that.
Yeah, The Shrouds.
Yeah, let us be surprised. No trailer failures over here. Just
I don't want to know anything. I'm already intrigued, but I truly have no idea what this movie is about.
That's fantastic. So is that all your likes and gripes, Jamie?
Yep.
Fantastic. Producer Brian, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I really like the setup. I liked this movie, and I like it because of the things I mentioned. I think it's a really interesting debut from a director whose family I'm already kind of have an affinity for. I thought that it was well directed from a camera perspective, from a cinematography perspective. I think that my biggest gripe with this movie is a lot of the script is just very clunky. It's not finessed in any way. It feels like a second or third draft, and they didn't smooth it out at all. But I'll go back to my likes. I thought that like Jamie had mentioned, the world building was awesome. I liked at the beginning when they started to talk about like immigration, how they like offered it to illegal immigrants, the marketing of it all, undocumented, excuse me, marketing, the Asian collapse, like all of this stuff that like are buzzwords that we've heard before in our lives. I thought that was all really good. And then it just started to get more and more heavy handed as the movie went on. I love a movie that has a twist in terms of my expectations of what the movie is. I really thought this movie was going to be like just an argument for an hour and a half from the family. And then once the father was killed and they had to like, it became like another movie. I like that too. Cause like that's Psycho is that way. Fresh is that way. Like there are a lot of movies like that just like take a hard left turn in the middle of it. So I do like that. I like the idea of that cowards list that we had previously mentioned. I thought that was super cool. And I really liked, this is so silly, but I really liked when he threw the phone, he like typed it and threw the phone outside of the scrambling like perimeter so that she can get the text.
Smart decision.
Yes, but also that's not the text I would ever send.
Yeah.
People are always sending these like romantic, like, I hope I see you again texts. It's like, no, tell them what's happening. Like,
say, come get me.
Yeah,
get the police. Get somebody.
Insane. Fully insane. And I've already mentioned the likes that I have for this movie in general.
Mhm.
Is it perfect? No, but I like an imperfect movie sometimes, especially when it's early in a director's career. I think this movie will either grow with me or shrink with me based on how her career goes, which isn't fair, but like I feel like this is exciting for me now, but if she never lives up to the potential that I see her potentially having based on what she did in this, I think this will feel like a disappointment on rewatch. And that's not fair, but like that's just how I see it. Some gripes, I already mentioned it. I think the script is wildly clunky. And one line that I point to outside of the heavy-handedness is when the father says that line where it's something like the effect of like, as you know, we both had marriages that ended in tragedy, but we found love. And I was like, okay, buddy, like everybody knows this. And when a character tells people in a clunky way something they already know, it takes me out. It feels like a screenplay, and I hate that.
If they're starting any line with "as you know," take it out.
Take it out.
I mean,
because we
I
already
don't
know.
think I don't know if he actually said that, but like he basically said that. I hated the sister spilling the beans about him having a girlfriend who was a former addict. I hated that because that doesn't feel real. And here's the thing. I think in the script, that moment where she tells the family that he's seeing another addict again, or a recovered addict, or a recovering addict, is supposed to set up the fact that she's a little shit and will do anything to stir up drama. I think that the character should have been played more into the maybe stereotypical actress who loves drama, and that would have justified a lot of the changes, and also related back to her upbringing in this kind of like upper class, and playing into the like she's the youngest, she likes to stir up the drama and the shit. But it wasn't played for that, and I think that was an inconsistency or in the script or in the character. Maybe things were cut, I don't know, but that felt like a real opportunity to build out that younger sister character that they never took.
Yeah.
I thought the effect of the spoon didn't work for me. Like the actual special effect of the spoon cauterizing the wounds didn't really work for me. I don't believe that the kid in the bathroom didn't hear that the mother was alive.
Same.
That they caught the mom.
Yeah, that was
Same.
weird. That was like unnecessarily weird.
Yeah. I think that's not the point of the movie, but I think if she had, when she like escaped from the RV for that 1 second and she yelled that piece of information, that could have been interesting, but that's not the point of the movie, so I'll have to put that away. I really liked something else that didn't really, the frustration of this movie is that moments like the corrections officer reveal are spectacular and brilliant. And then the frustration is all the other clever things they were trying to do were very heavy-handed in general. And another thing I hate in movies that I absolutely
That's how you really feel.
despise in movies is when people throw their drinks at signs. That's not real.
At the very beginning.
The very beginning, they bought 4 new coffees and threw the whole thing at the sign. Yeah. I do not believe that is a real thing that people do.
Coffee's expensive.
It's expensive. Not only that, but like that you need that. Those people probably needed that to get their day started or whatever it is. I just don't believe when people are like, I'm not done with my drink, but that sign's really pissing me off, and they throw their drink at the sign. I don't believe that. That's not real.
I don't know.
To me.
The way that you just acted that out was very believable.
That was
fine. But thank you.
That's hilarious.
I think that I want more stuff in this world. That's what I want. This excites me to see more of her stuff. And something that I want. So if this is a spinoff of the, if this is a Purge spinoff, I want another version of this movie that's kind of like a Children of Men spinoff, where it's like, what do they do when somebody's having a kid in this world and raises the percent? Like, I'm interested in that side of things as well, because I loved the rules for the draft where it's like only one family member can be drafted and a parent can take their spot if they want to. Right. Like, I thought that was fascinating. I want more of the draft. And like, I would love a movie that like shows a middle class family who someone was picked up for the draft, and then like and then the father or the mother is just too coward maybe to like take their spot, or I don't. I think that's also an interesting like movie as well. I think this world building is really really cool. And then
that kind of sorry, that whole you described that just reminded me like that tiptoes into like Hunger Games.
Yeah, totally.
Vibe. Yeah.
Totally. Like I volunteer as tribute or whatever
Right.
it is.
Yes.
So yeah, that's but I, you know, despite all my gripes and the clear flaws of this movie, I'm more accepting of flaws when I know it's someone's early work. And I want to see them grow. And I like jumping on the train of young filmmakers, and we've covered a lot of young filmmakers on this podcast, or first time filmmakers, and have seen some really great debuts that I'm super excited to see what they do next. And then the last question I have is I really liked the end. I really liked the you know, all of them kind of like with their scars at this cultural event of them watching their younger adopted brother, who they would like literally have killed, watching him kind of like, you know, playing in what we would assume is a prestigious, you know, concert hall or something like that, with all of their scars. And then you think the movie ends, but then you get the marketing again, where it's like these two people, like that felt very, very, that felt great. You know what it reminded me of? Do you remember we watched The Master?
Yes.
And there's that moment in there where they play the
the
marketing, ad for the college,
right?
Yeah, and it's like it's like showing to like 3 people of color at the college.
Yes.
Like, even though it's very
like,
different.
We love diversity. Here's the only 3 people of color.
That was an interesting movie with a young filmmaker who did something that could have been heavy-handed and was in places, but did not feel that way, because that's what the movie was about. Right. And the movie was about one thing. And that's why it felt less heavy-handed. When your movie's about one thing, you can be more heavy-handed with things. But when your movie's about 1,000 things, the more heavy-handed you are about multiple things, the more weighs the movie down and the narrative down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed.
I agree.
Yeah. Is that all that you have for likes and gripes, Ryan?
Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you for listening.
Yes. I was ready. It's like, okay, what else? What else you got? Yeah, I agree with everything that y'all have said, and also some new perspectives that you have put into my brain that I did not think about earlier. I also enjoyed this movie. I really just did. My one big gripe was the actress Ashley's sister and her whole trajectory and character journey, because it, like Brian said, if she's going to be a little shit, like, let her be a little shit, which I think is hilarious. Because, yeah, the way that she just betrayed her brother like that just didn't seem like that would be her character with how they set it all up in the beginning. So then when she did die, I was like, okay, well, if I had to pick somebody to die, then I get that it would be her, just with how she treated, you know, everyone in that sense. It's like, okay, well, if it has to be anybody, then I'm fine with it being her being the one to die. I loved the song choice at the very beginning. We're here for a good time, not a long time. I just thought it set it up really nicely.
Yeah.
And it was the dynamic with the dad and the kids were a little off to me, mostly because like the kids are sharing how they feel about him and that he's like not a great person. But I don't know, maybe I'm just a simpleton, and I would have liked to have seen like him being angry in order for me to like feel like side with the kids and how they feel about this person. Like, of course, yeah, he's someone who is of a higher someone who's rich, a high profiled person is what I'm trying to say. And that alone can be like, okay, you're probably kind of like a little bit of a shit with how this world is set up and how the socio-economical, like we've all been talking about, like a lot of the times you don't see the high profile people helping others. So like, yeah, maybe he is like a piece of shit, but just, I don't know, maybe Peter like just has such a kind face that I just can't see him as an actor being like super rude.
Yeah, that's interesting. I felt that way too, but I think that I think that's also a part of the character development where like
Mm,
maybe his new wife really allowed him to kind of like see a new perspective and settle down and calm down
Mm.
and stuff like that. Like
mm,
he also may have not been a mean demanding father. He could have just been an absent father where he was more focused
fair.
on, like doing the job versus not. I don't know, but I definitely agree with you that like I felt like as good of an actor as he is, I felt like
Hmm.
we only saw one side of it. We saw a little bit of the anger and frustration when he saw the clause about the cowards list or whatever it is.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Um but I would have liked to see more of a transition from the character. Like he just I don't know. To me, it seemed like he just went from like really angry to be like, "I guess I'm dying now." Like
Yeah.
I needed another emotion in there.
Yes. It just all seemed that whole that whole thing seemed rushed, but even still I agree with you, Brian, that I liked that it subverted my expectation of what the movie was going to be. When he did actually die and we have to continue on, and this is only 30 minutes into the movie, we still have an hour left to go.
Yeah.
Would the movie have been more interesting if it was an hour of like fighting? Maybe if there was some other gems dropped of like the wife leaves and so they're all just trying to like find her, but they all still have to like come up with a second body with the dad still there before the dad dies, like, and then that's when the thing comes out about the inheritance from the adopted son, whatever. I don't know, that I think that for me might have been more interesting than like the dad dying and then us getting what we get with between the siblings. But yeah, I love we love rules, and I love the rules of everything, of why it's happening, the world building, everything that you said. Already said that I really loved Bob as an actor. I enjoyed everything about that. Um, yeah, I think I'm just going through this, and we've said kind of everything. Also, um, uh, Jay Baruchel's character just really irked me, especially when he
Mhm.
said, "I know I'm not supposed to say this, but I don't see color, and I really don't see
I
color."
really don't. I was like, okay.
And I was just like, "Oh, this is just a strong eye roll." But that's the type of
Yeah,
character that it is, so it's
but
like, okay,
true. But these are lines I've seen in other movies. None of those
yes,
heavy-handed. Here's the thing: none of the heavy-handed lines that like felt they were driven by character did
mm,
not feel like something new. And
Mhm.
honestly, like I just need to see it in a fresh new way in some instances. Like
yeah,
this is not the same but similar. Like man, I've seen so many Holocaust movies, but like
mhm.
what? But and like I know what's gonna happen, and I'm sure Nikisha, you probably feel a similar way about like I've seen so many slavery movies. Like
Yes,
can we
yes,
can we can we we can still we still need to talk about both of those things. We
right,
still need to get the new movies out there, but that's why Zone of Interest was so interesting because it was a different perspective on the same tragic awful thing that made you
mm-hmm.
see it through a different eye. And I would
Yes,
like and there are different ways to make a slavery film, and it doesn't have to take place in pre-civil war, civil war. It can
yes,
take place now, and you use another different so my point being is that like all the things they're saying, all of the heavy-handed thematics in this movie, I would have liked to seen done in a different way, a more finessed way. But again, that will come with time from this director and screenwriter, in my opinion.
yeah.
Mhm.
I will say though, I feel like I liked this with the concept of choose who's gonna die. I liked this better than Knock at the Cabin. I think
Hmm.
that
Oh,
this one
interesting.
was a little more interesting
That's a
to
good
me
question.
in terms, and I think it also just has to do with what we've all been saying this entire episode, is the world building of it all.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
Knock at the Cabin just didn't hit that mark for me to like really rock with trying to fight for this family, that's there.
Yeah, that's interesting because Knock in the Cabin is also heavy-handed and it's dealing with the
Hmm.
uh with the gay couple as making the
Yes.
decision as the center of this, and you're essentially being like you're using their pain and their love to justify their decision, which feels not as heavy-handed as this, but like obviously still heavy-handed in a way. The world building's better in this, I think. I also think that movie is more monotonous than this movie was because they never changed their tactic, and I hated that about not.
Sure.
Yeah.
But this one,
absolutely.
like, it escalates in different ways in this one. So I thought the momentum is a little bit higher in this one. So that's interesting, Nikisha. That's an interesting.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's pretty much. I did have a good time watching this, and you know how they set up even just within their sibling rivalry of like how they all interacted with each other as kind of estranged siblings made sense to me. So as far as how they're kind of peopling, it worked for me. But yeah, more of what's happening in the world building and zeroing in on one main thing. I was also really this is a random side note, but I also was just really upset when the daughter left that RV and she went back in, turned the car on, but then walked out of the RV, and I'm like,
yeah.
I was like, drive away. What?
Run over somebody.
Throw your drink at them.
Yeah.
Something.
There were like a lot of those little things, like between that and like the weird conversation that like she definitely would have overheard in the bathroom.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe these were like re-edits, like the story was going a different way, and then they like left elements in, but like maybe that is in fact what was going or supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Because those were both around like the same kind of pivotal moment where like she's exiting the thing, and I could have seen like this big conversation then happened with all parties present, like outside of the house.
Yeah, all the scenes between Bob and the daughter just did not feel important to the story. They literally just felt like scenes designed just to pull us away from the house for a little bit, like in a weird way. It almost felt like if this was a stage play, it almost felt like a useless scene to change the set behind them.
Yeah,
You
or
know
give
what I
someone extra
mean?
time to change like the costume.
Like I needed that to tie in to the main story a little bit more, and it didn't. It felt like two separate things, and the characters came back together, as opposed to like a narrative piece of information from that side continued on to the other side or the other plot line. That's a really good point. I couldn't scratch the itch, and when you said that, it totally got there.
Yeah, because even it's like they kind of tried when Bob was talking about his wife, and then the daughter brings it back up right before they're gonna like try to kill Bob. But it was just such a small moment that it wasn't anything that was super significant like to the story in general. So there was not needed. Like there was nothing. Yeah, they didn't have to say it. I also forgot, and how could I ever forget this? The main thing is when they're showing the pictures of the dad's character with all of like the people as like high profile whatever, and there's a picture with him and Beyonce.
Oh, I know.
Cackle.
Yes. Oh,
That was funny.
The Photoshop of Peter Gallagher and all of them in that, like, I guess it must have been his second wedding ceremony or whatever it was.
Oh yeah,
was awful.
It's so it looked like just bad Photoshop. Super bad Photoshop.
I will never understand ever how these are like truly some of the greatest filmmakers and some of the greatest production staffs ever in the history of movie making, and every single photo that's supposed to look like they were all together looks wildly photoshopped, and it is wild to me that they just can't ever get it right. That's crazy. That's crazy. I don't know. Some people's stuff I see on Instagram and like TikTok is better than some of the production stuff that I see in these movies, and it will forever boggle my mind. I'm sorry. You really sparked something in me. I didn't expect to get this way about it, but I did, and here we are. Photoshop
Parlor Talk.
Photoshop Parlor
Talk.
Come, sit, have a drink. It's parlor talk.
I did not expect that to pop off in my brain like that.
That is funny. Somebody call Kate Middleton's people who've been photoshopping her when she was use that. That's better than this.
That's really funny.
Fantastic. Okay, anyone have any last thoughts before we move on?
No, I thought this was a fun one to talk about because it's
Yes.
clearly flawed, but we all still had a good time.
Yeah. Were there any quotes that you got, Bri?
Ooh.
Yes. Only the one I said already.
Oh.
We both had marriages that ended in tragedy, but we could find love again. I didn't really write down quotes. I wrote down like bullet points and stuff, but none of the quotes really stuck out to me in this one because they were all, a lot of them were heavy-handed.
Yeah.
But I really did like I was engaged while watching this. I would zone out a little bit during the like, let's get this person, let's stab this person. But like, I didn't really write down any quotes from this one. Oh, the best quote in this movie I actually is like, you know, I didn't know, Ashley, you were such a good actress, or something like that.
Oh my God,
when she's playing
yes.
dead on the floor, or it wasn't her or whatever. That was
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because and then the little notes about everyone, and it said that she was melodramatic.
Oh,
Hilarious.
yes.
Yeah.
And here's that melodramatic, dramatic. That's why that character needed to have done that on purpose at the beginning.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then when she
Lean
gets in
into
the
it.
front seat and she wants all the gossip, they should have leaned into that 100%, and that
Mhm.
would have been way more interesting than the character we got.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good point.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, let's move on to our next segment. Brains.
Tasty.
Tasty. Yes. Love it. Okay, so throughout this movie, it's a lot of like moral dilemma things happening, a lot of ethics and such. But I was trying to steer away from all that to focus in on like mental health and the psychology of it all. But my first question to you, Jamie, is if someone came to you for counseling about having a little bit of a dilemma with having kids or not having kids within this world that the movie has created, what would you tell them? How would you counsel them?
The sequel.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think that these conversations are already starting now. Again, if like this is like the dystopian like future that our reality is slowly working towards, like I definitely think, and like you even see it in like numbers, like millennials are not having as many children as like past generations.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that like it's a really personal decision. I think that like there's no right or wrong answer. I think it's like I could understand the perspective of not wanting to, like, I think the way that like Peter Gallagher's character kind of says it is like this like selfish decision of bringing children into the world, and he's like, and 4, like, oh my God. So like, you know, I think that there's a lot of really compelling reasons why people want to have children. I think there's also a lot of really compelling reasons why people don't want to have children. It's a deeply personal decision. I think that like obviously in a world where they're actively dealing with like overpopulation, like how we're only seeing it from one particular perspective. We're seeing it from like a US perspective. We're not seeing it internationally. So like we don't know what the other responses are to this crisis that they're facing.
Yeah.
But like, you know, I think I could see like in terms of if somebody actually wanted to have a conversation like in therapy about this and like supporting someone, like I think being non-judgmental and like open about like exploring all of the things, like this isn't something that like I'm going to be challenging somebody on, because like your values are your values are your values. Like
Yeah,
I have my
absolutely.
own values, and like it's not for me to like bring my own shit into this space. It's for me to like
Right.
carve out space for you to explore like ultimately what are the values that are most important to you. Is it like, you know, having a family? Is it legacy? Is it like are those the things that are more valuable? Is it sustainability? Is it like, you know, the future of like society and the universe? Is it like global ecological rights and things like that? Like, it really depends on like what your personal values are, and ultimately the moments where there is conflict and tension between values, like something is usually going to win out, and like that's how we end up making decisions. So it's really like how to explore, like, between these two competing values that you might hold, like what do you feel like ultimately wins out in the decision of like whether or not to procreate in this world
Yeah.
where like it already might be dealing with a crisis. But again, it's like there's plenty of crises happening right now, which I think is a lot of the reasons why people are choosing not to have families, like choosing not to have children.
Right.
Like financially, it's a major burden. I think a lot of people now, I feel like DINKs and DINKWAD has become like so popularized.
What is that?
Wait, really? You never heard of these terms?
Wait, okay, I have seen DINK, yes. I've
Yeah,
seen it. I never knew what that meant.
Yeah. So it stands for dual income, no kids. So it's like a couple who are both like, they're both earning money and they don't have children. And then Dinkwad is dual income, no kids with a dog.
I'm obsessed with all of this.
But here's the funniest thing that Brian actually brought to my attention. What cartoon was that from?
Doug.
Yeah.
The Dinks.
Yeah.
Mind blown, because they did not have any kids.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I had not made that connection. And
very expensive.
Wow. Blew
right?
My mind.
Wasn't that his catchphrase? Very expensive.
I think so.
Yeah.
Oh my wow. That's mind blown. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So if you ever, I get a lot of content that's like child free. I get a very mixed amount of content, possibly because of the precipice of timeline that I'm in. But I get a lot of like we're dinks, or like we're dinkwads, and like here's our like weekly routine. Or like, we're child free, and like these are the things that we can do. And then now I'm also getting like I'm X weeks pregnant, or like I've started working on the nursery, or like all of these things. So it's like, it's funny getting both. And like, I think that both perspectives are totally valid. I don't think it's fair to impose like values onto anyone else. And I also think that there's a lot of problematic like things even within each of these perspectives as well. Like there isn't one right side one way or another. So I think like, people should, like, people who are child free like can be child free and be happy. But I don't think that it's helpful to like then shame people who like choose to have families. And I think vice versa. I don't think that people who are choosing to have kids like should be shaming people who are child free, because like also like what is that going to serve? Do you think that you're actually going to make somebody feel badly enough to have a child, or like do what with their child should said child exist? Like I just don't understand the like the vitriol towards like someone again. It's like a value thing. If it's not your values, like then it's not your values. Like, but who are you to then like put that on somebody else? Like,
and as we've learned on this podcast on previous episodes, there's no wrong way to eat a Reese's.
You should take it out of the wrapper.
Yes.
Hey, if your body can digest it, go all in.
Okay, well, none of us are doctors here, so be sure to consult.
Not sponsored. Not.
Be sure to consult a doctor before you consume ingest plastic. Yeah.
Exactly.
Also, I think it's to be a little bit personal about it. Like Jamie and I definitely talked about like, our fears of bringing a kid into this world right now, both cost of this world from an emotional perspective, from a financial perspective. Like these are things that we're just not like willy-nilly being like, haha, like we really talked about it. And like, we both wanted kids and so, it was it's something that I think as responsible humans, you need to at least have some sort of a conversation about, or at least have a point of view on,
Absolutely.
in general. Because like I once saw, I forget what it is, but like having a kid is the only decision like that you can't reverse in a way, where it's like
Hmm.
if you pick the wrong job, you find another job. If you lose all your money, you can always find more money. You can't ever not be a parent once you
Yeah.
are one. And
Mm-hmm.
like that's,
And you don't know what it will be until
It
you
happens.
commit to it. Yeah.
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 Like it
Mhm.
is like one of the very few things where it's really hard to anticipate what the experience will be like until you are in the experience. So it's like there's a, there could be a chance where it's like I go through with this and I'm like, "Oh no." Then I'll have to talk to Brian about that. But, like that's like part of
Understood.
it's like there is like inherently a risk to like doing something where you don't know what the outcome is necessarily going to be.
For
and
sure.
and like that I think also is like a totally valid reason why people again like would choose not to have children, because it's like I'd rather, know what my future holds more, like a little bit more compared to like the
Then,
unpredictability of it.
for sure. I get that. But at the end of the day, like you said, it's you really sitting with your own values and what you believe is right for you, and not necessarily what someone else might pressure you to do either way. So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. That's great.
Yeah.
My next question is, since we're already on the subject of kids and not kids, can you talk a little bit more just about why you think there's such a divide with the worth and value of people with kids and versus people without kids? And I just say that because within this movie specifically, but a lot of times when you see in horror movies, they're like, "Don't kill me, I have kids, spare me." And that's supposed to be kind of like the saving grace of it all. But can you just talk
Mm-hmm.
about why you think that there's just such a divide in what people think is valuable or not valuable with kids and not kids?
Yeah. I mean, like, I think that's also a really common thread in uh, some like conventional workplaces, which I think is really
Mm.
interesting, where I hear about it a
Mm-hmm.
lot, is just like this idea of, well, if a parent has to like end their workday to go home and like pick up their kids and stuff like that, then sometimes like the burden of doing certain work tasks falls on staff or like colleagues who do not have children, because there's this like underlying expectation that like, well, you have more flexibility, well, you have like more free time to like get some of this
Mm.
done. And I'm not making
Mm-hmm.
this up, this is like real stuff that I've heard from people that I've worked with, that like
Same.
these are the pressures that they're feeling as a result of not having children. And it's like who has then decided that like, because like somebody made a decision again like to have children, that then other people have to take on more as a result of that? Like, when
Yeah.
did we decide that these other people's time is less valuable than the people who decided to have children? And like that I think is incredibly problematic, because like, of like, I think that like not having support as somebody who like has children is also really problematic. I think it
Yes.
like really kind of zooms out to like what's the actual problem, and how is like tasking a child-free coworker with doing more work like also problematic. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
not resolving the underlying issue. Perhaps, people like people in positions of power should put their money where their mouth is and actually like offer more flexibility to everyone. Perhaps there
Yes.
should be more support around like childcare. Perhaps like we should care more just about like everybody collectively, so that it doesn't feel so like, this side or that side. And I feel like these are all just like tiny ways that like just continue to reinforce this divide between like people who have children and people who are child free,
Mm-hmm.
whether they want children or not. Like these also might still be people who want children in the future but aren't having them now. But again, why should they have to take on that burden of like, no, I'm ending my workday when I want to end my workday, because like I've done all of the hours of work I need to do today.
Right. I've
um
accomplished the goal for the day, so let me go.
yeah.
Yes.
So I feel like there is this like larger uh maybe like societal like morality piece around parents, maybe even more so around like mothers in particular, because the character we're seeing in this movie is a mother. So I
Yeah.
feel like that too, like there's a lot of things playing into that as well. But yeah, just this idea of like that then means that she inherently like has more value because she is someone, because she's a caretaker, because she's a, you know, someone that she's responsible for, who's dependent on her, like that kind of thing. But like that doesn't make her any more valuable. I kind of thought she was gonna die. That's who I was rooting for to die the whole time.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, because it was like your whole character is just that you're a mom. Like, who gives a shit? Like, your kid is like pretty like dealing with her own shit. You acknowledge that your kid is being bullied, and like what have you done to support? Like, I was just like, that is not that's like, you're really just narrowing down her whole identity to this one thing, and like she doesn't even seem to be that great at that. So like, why
So
do
here
we
we go.
care?
Right.
But yeah, like that in and of itself, it's like, this doesn't absolve you of like all of the other, like, just because like you birthed a child does not absolve you of all of the other shit that you've done, which is like, again, very much kind of what feels like the point where it's like, you're a terrible mom, you're a terrible person, you like have done all, like when they give her the opportunity to like list all of her grievance or the things that she's done, it's like, yeah, you stink. You being a mom does not make you unstink. You still stink.
Exactly. I love that. Yes. Yeah, it's such like a macro issue, especially when you're talking about like the childcare system as well. Because if it's like it's still a back and forth, like if there's better childcare, then like, yeah, then maybe I will be able to like stay for my full time. But because this is how this is, like I have to go and get my child, you know. And
I mean, let's talk about like mat leave in the United States. It's terrible.
It's ridiculous. It is
what the hell?
Absolutely ridiculous.
It's embarrassing when you look at how these other countries
really
function.
It's so bad. Like I'm about to like go on my leave and just like not have any money.
Right. You're literally
like,
just hoping for the best with a newborn child.
Like, cool. Like hope this whole thing goes well.
Yeah.
Like that's like that is the reality. But again, like that doesn't make me better than anybody else. Like, and
no,
you know, like
that's the thing with it being a micro issue. It's like, how are we helping and supporting everyone regardless? And what does that entail? And it's like, have better maternity leaves, God. Like, what are you doing? These people are still the same people.
We talk so much about protecting babies, but like, you know, who's responsible for the said babies, and how are we supporting them in protecting said babies? Like,
because y'all are supporting them. You want people to have them, and then you're not doing anything beyond the people who actually take care of them. Yes. Which is a whole other conversation.
You did the thing. All right. See ya. Right, I can't wait for you to return to work and contribute to this capitalist society once again. And then your kid will eventually. So thank you for creating offspring.
Thank you for creating offspring just to feed into the capitalist society. And that's where we are. Yes. Wild. Okay, last question. So what's your stance on forgive and forget? And is it possible to healthily move forward if you don't forgive someone for what they've done? And I'm just thinking about the kids not really kind of forgiving their father even after he dies, especially like the mom character. It's like shitting on him all the fucking time. So yeah, how do you feel about like the forgiving mentality?
Yeah, I know that like people love like a quick little ditty of a phrase, and I think that's probably why it just like continues to exist. But like I think more in terms of like what is helpful to like allow you to move forward. Like I think people are often feeling very stuck in a variety of ways, and like that's usually where like, you know, people are coming in looking for support. It's like, I feel stuck in this place. I feel like I can't like progress. Like something is blocking me. There are things getting in the way. And I feel like this is one of those things where it's like there's this pressure to like forgive and forget some or many things that somebody has experienced at the hands of one person or several people or like whoever. I don't just mean like physically, I just mean like in general, like, you know, things that people have endured. And then there's like all of this pressure to just like let it go and move on.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that it's helpful to like frame it in terms of like just let it go, but I think it's more of like what is going to allow you, like how you feel about this situation is totally valid. Like our feelings are valid. It's more of like how do we like allow ourselves to like affirm that while still moving forward? Like what do you need moving forward in order to
Yeah.
like get unstuck? Do you need a relationship with this person? Do you need to like absolve them of like all of the things that they have done? It's also a reminder that like things aren't super black and white. Like you
Yes.
might continue to harbor like a lot of really negative feelings towards this person, but like maybe also, you know, like continuing to interact with them for a variety of reasons because like, you know, that's the reality that you're facing. Like I think that or choose not to, you know, like I don't
Yeah.
think that there's one right way to respond to it, but like there's something about forgive and forget that I feel like puts a lot of pressure on people to like invalidate how they're feeling about a situation
Yep.
and tell themselves these messages of like I shouldn't be feeling this way, like I need to get over this. And it's like, well, like let's challenge that a bit. I don't think it's about getting over something, but perhaps you don't want to harbor the same intensity of feelings that you continue to feel about it. That's
Mm.
something we can work through. Like you don't have to feel it at like the umpteenth level. Like let's figure out ways to reduce stress and like, you know, build distress tolerance skills so that you can handle like navigating these situations more effectively, so it's not feeling as intense or lasting as long. Like I think
Yeah.
those are things that are are helpful, and like putting less pressure on ourselves for things that like they have to be a certain way or they should be a certain way. Like says who? Like who is the decider of that?
Exactly. I love that because that's also what my therapist always talks about when I say, "Oh, I should
Yeah.
feel this way," or "I should
Stop
not
shitting
feel
all
this
over
way."
yourself.
Yep. I
Yeah.
love it.
I also hate that like phrase. It kind of grosses me out, but it is in a lot of the worksheets that I have. And I'm always like, I'm sorry that it says this in the worksheet. They're trying to make it funny so that you like know what it means.
Right.
But yeah, don't shit all over your. Oh yeah, one of the other ones. Oh god, I actually stopped giving this worksheet out to people because I sent it out to someone once, and then they were like, "Oh, did you see like what it says about this section?" I was like, "No," and I was deeply embarrassed. So it says like
Oh.
shoulds and musts is like an unhelpful way of thinking about things because it's like this very rigid fixed way of thinking about things that puts a lot of pressure on us. So when we say
Mhm.
like, oh, I should have done that, or like I should be doing this, or I must do this, that's where that pressure is coming from. And so they say like stop shitting all over yourself and stop masturbating, and I was like, ew, who wrote this?
No.
You're fired. I hate it. So I stopped using that worksheet.
Ew, gross.
Okay, shitting yourself. Okay, great. Muster
Yeah,
fading.
shut it down.
Okay,
Shut it down.
immediately.
I hate it. I hate it. Yep.
Ooh.
So
That's
you know,
disgusting.
I have not made any of these worksheets. I cannot speak to being the creator of them. I
Right.
just collect a lot of resources and have throughout my career. That one I had to retire that one because I couldn't handle it.
That's
Yeah.
terrible.
That's
That
bad.
is terrible.
Yeah, imagine sending that to someone not knowing that you sent it.
Right. I can
Deeply
understand you
embarrassing
feeling
for me.
some type of way.
Yeah, really cool.
Oh God. Okay, well
Yep.
that's all that I had for brains. Should we rotten to mutton?
Rotten to molten.
Rotten to mutton.
It's the Rotten Tomatoes game.
All right. What do you think this movie has on Rotten Tomatoes?
This is hard.
Nikisha, you go first because you said it's hard.
Yeah. I'm gonna say 67.
All right. Jamie, what do you think this has on Rotten Tomatoes?
I really have no sense of what critics think about this.
Sure.
I know. I feel like it's gonna be like high.
I'll say no. I'm gonna go the other direction because I'm guessing that critics were like, "Oh, Cronenberg, we have such high expectations," and then they're gonna be mad. So I'm gonna say 59.
This has a 69 on Rotten Tomatoes. So Nikisha,
Okay.
off by 2 and Price is Right rules doing well. The audience score was a 41%. So Jamie was close to that.
Interesting.
The critics' consensus is Humane's twisted psychological thrills are diverting enough in the moment to distract from its occasionally awkward attempts to balance socio-political commentary against high concept horror.
Yeah.
I think that's dead on.
That's
Yeah.
a great statement.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So now going to Humane on Letterboxd. Out of 5, what do you think this has on Letterboxd? Jamie, we'll start with you. Again, there are decimal points on this one.
2.9.
2.9 for Jamie. Nikisha?
I'm gonna say 2.4.
2.4. This is a 2.7.
Oh.
So Nikisha wins if we're playing Price is Right rules.
Mhm.
And Jamie wins if we're just playing closest to either side. So
Yes.
I thought that was interesting. Honestly, the most popular reviews on here, they're long, like things, but the one that I found funniest, because that's what we care about here on Talking Horror, is
Yes.
another Cronenberg. I think the Cronenbergs and the Coppolas are competing.
Wow.
That's
Fantastic. Yes.
Great. Should we do the 4 S's?
Yes.
Skull, Scare, Shakes, and Suggestions. The Talking Horror's 4 S's.
Okay, the 4 S's are Skull, Scare, Shakes, and Suggestions. What do you think these numbers are for you? So Skulls is 1 through 10, Scares is 1 through 10, Shakes is 1 through 10. Skulls is human health and mental behavior. Scares is how scary was it. Shakes is can you shake it off? Was it a one and done? So Jamie, let's start with you.
Sure. For Skulls, I'm really torn about my score. Kind of like I gave it a 5. And I think the reason why I really just kind of went middle of the road is like there's a point where, because it's like just so on theme, that's like, are people actually saying these things to each other? Or like, I get that some of it was like real, but then it comes to a point where it's like becomes so over the top. Then like, is this a real conversation anymore? Or is this reality? And I just felt kind of like no in a lot of the conversations. So I think that kind of docked a lot of points, despite, again, like there's a lot of things that feel super parallel to what we're experiencing now. For Scares, I gave this a 1. I think that the idea behind it is really interesting and like disturbing, again, because like our reality is deeply disturbing. Maybe I gave it a lower score because I am desensitized to our reality for what it is, because just time and time again, all the shit that we've been dealing with, it's like, yep, okay, another one, great.
Here we are.
So, yeah, but I don't think that it had like too many really tense like frightening moments. There was some thrilling moments, but like I don't think I like got jump scared or really anything like that. And then for Shakes, though, I'm giving it a 5 because, again, I really like the idea behind it. I like that it was super original. Again, like, I'm excited about like future Cronenberg projects. And yeah, like, I think that I hope that this also like continues this trend of like just really interesting original ideas that like we continue to see in the horror space, because I feel like the last couple of years has really been a nice horror resurgence of just like a lot of really creative ideas in this space. And like this feels aligned with that. So I'm excited again for like more original ideas, less like reboots, sequels, remakes, whatever. Like give me original horror ideas.
Yes, please.
Mm-hmm.
Nikisha, what about you?
Yeah, mine are pretty close to Jamie's. I gave it a 6 for Skulls, mostly because of what I said with the estranged siblings and just how they would kind of be reacting with each other. I bought that. Scares, I gave this a 2 for the world and just how depressing it is now. So I agree with Jamie. And Shakes, I gave it a 6. I had a good time watching it, and yeah, it was a great concept, great world building.
Cool. I also did a 6 for Skulls. I did a 0 for Scares. And I did a 6.5 for Shakes. My 0 for Scares was because even with the world as it is, I was too busy thinking how clever some of the world building was, and how interesting some of the like decisions they made were, to actually be afraid of what was happening. It's not.
Oh, fair.
I have more of a fear of the Purge movies than I do of this, even though they're dealing in similar canvases, if you will. And then for Shakes, I gave it the 6.5, as I mentioned, because of the world building really boosted this for me. Same thing. That's why I gave it a 6 instead of a 5 for Skulls. Who wants to start with suggestions?
I'll go. Even though I was shitting on it, Knock at the Cabin, but what this reminded me of, as far as like, I guess, choosing how you're gonna die, I don't know, the games of it all. It gave me Would You Rather vibes. So
Okay, sure.
yeah.
Jamie?
I just went with The Purge. Because that really just is what it felt like. Like if this was like an expanded version of that world, maybe before it turns into like straight up The Purge, like this would be the first step that the government takes in getting closer and closer to enacting The Purge.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, this is almost interesting as a predecessor to The Purge, in terms of like, this was the first step where it was enlistment, and then they were just like, hey, why don't we do this? Or I think that's interesting. I went with the killing of a sacred deer, our buddy Yorgos, just in terms of a family needing to make a impossible decision. So I went with our good guy Yorgos, the killing of a sacred deer.
He has another movie coming out soon too.
Yeah, because people forget that was filmed a long time ago. Poor Things, and then he filmed another one after that, and it's coming up pretty soon. So Yorgos,
nice.
I look forward to it. Ghosts,
busy ghosts,
busy ghosts. Cool. Good job, everyone.
Yay!
Yeehaw.
Well, that wraps up. Woo-ha! That wraps up our episode of, I don't know what woo-ha was, but here we are.
No, I liked it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jamie. Always with the validation. So that wraps up our episode of Humane. You can follow us on all the social medias: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, @TalkHorrorPod. And Brian, where can they listen to us?
You can listen to us wherever you get podcasts. That includes YouTube. Hi, YouTube. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts for your ears. That includes places like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Rate and review us there. 5 stars, please.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Also, I think for Brian's sake, the moral of the story in this movie is don't throw drinks at signs, guys.
Don't throw drinks. The only drinks you're allowed to throw things at are poorly photoshopped signs.
Ah, yes, absolutely. Thanks for listening, guys.
Bye.
Bye.